What is missing from the equation that leadership doesn't also see that there is a need to facilitate some kind of a environmental or cultural intervention to make it actually useful?
Ego gets in the way.
Boy, this little conversation has gone an interesting route, right? Gone from being able to have crucial conversations to looking for bodies out back.
Talk about a crucial conversation. Welcome back to Unapologetic Rabble-Rousers. I'm DocShellie.
And I'm Carla Lewis. And today we are going to tackle a topic that we actually started talking about in it was
a long time ago.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. And I think it's really appropriate to bring this up. You've just started a new job.
I did.
Which is very exciting. And we're reflecting on how organizations determine that there's something that we need to be able to do better and differently. And so we're going to train everybody on it. But they forget some of the really important points of having training that's actually going to make a difference. And so this came up when I met you.
Mm-hmm.
I met you as you were training at General Motors. Oh, yeah, it was. Yes,
Cat's out of the bag now.
Okay. And the topic was crucial conversations. Now, Michelle is one of the celebrated trainers for that company. And we had the privilege of having her as our instructor. And that is when I met you.
Yes.
It is, the conversation we're going to have is about the ridiculousness of an organization saying, let's learn how to have crucial conversations. You all go and learn how to do that, but don't do anything to change the environment so that kind of new knowledge and capability is actually valuable.
Right. That was my biggest pet peeve of teaching that class. I absolutely love the material. I love the concepts. It's great stuff. Mm-hmm. And it can prolifically change how you communicate with other people, and it changes the results you get through conversation. But they would send people to the class. Leadership didn't necessarily take the class. Some leaders might take it. But the culture wasn't ready for people to apply what they learned in class. So it was great that people were learning how to do this. And I think it often had a bigger impact for people in their personal lives, which I was okay with. Mm-hmm. But the intent was, let's learn how to have these conversations at work. And then people would try to have them at work, and then they'd get their hand slapped because how dare you?
It was the stories that came out as we would through the training. You would get into small groups and role play different conversations and be able to talk about some of the uses of this new knowledge that we were going to be taking back with us. Mm-hmm. How there were deep worries about actually being able to survive the experience of a crucial conversation with this new knowledge that we had. The stories that were coming out about the behind the scenes, the management and team engagement models that were in place. One woman in particular was talking about how her boss, when she would start to say something, she would, I don't know how far she might get into her comments, but he would use his fingers like a claw.
Oh, like the sign language, no.
Okay, that's what that was.
Yeah.
And he would go, tss, and that meant, okay,
stop
so that's
talking.
sign language for no.
Yeah, that's a pinch of the fingers and the thumb together.
Okay.
No.
She was being treated that way in a professional setting with a little noise to emphasize the silent indication that you should not say anything more. So what is it?
I would like to say that surprises me.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No. What is it? What is it that needs to happen if a leadership team determines that there's some behaviors that we want to enforce, that we want to introduce, that we want to bolster our organization's courage and strength in being able to have, in this case, important conversations and to do so in a meaningful and respectful way? What is missing from the equation that leadership doesn't also see that there is a need to facilitate some kind of a environmental or cultural intervention to make it actually useful.
Ego gets in the way.
Okay, could you please spend some more time about how an organization's leadership team can say, yes, this is what we want, but you do it, not us. You guys go learn and do this, not us. Because what? Because we don't have any problems? We are.
Of course we don't have problems.
Okay, we're fully capable of engaging in crucial conversations.
Exactly. I think a lot of people are afraid to hold the mirror up to people like,
Okay.
we'll just call him man.
Yeah, okay.
And people like that have gotten away with that kind of behavior. That behavior has been tolerated, accepted for years. That person, she is not the first person that he did that to.
No.
And she is certainly not the last person he has done that to. Probably nobody has ever called him out on it. I guarantee you, the first time he did that to me, I would have said something. I promise you that. And knowing now how to handle those conversations, I actually had somebody do that very early on in my career. I literally smacked his hand away from my face because he did it right in front of my face. And I might have used some explicitives, but I wouldn't do that now because I've learned and I've grown. But I would absolutely have a conversation with that person about it. But I'm guessing that she didn't. And
No.
I'm guessing the people that came before her and after her didn't. Mm-mm. So he thinks it's perfectly acceptable to at people.
But I think I can see where the ego piece comes in. I can see, not that I'm condoning it, but that notion that, look, I just need you all to be able to handle these conversations very respectfully, okay? I want you to be able to make sure that you do the SOB model, and I want you to, I'm sorry, that doesn't stand for what you think it does. But being able to do that, well, what would a person, how does leadership not see this? I'm imagining that leaders generally were not the sponsors for this education.
Interestingly enough, a lot of times they were. Very few attended because they get results. They're not the problem, right? If we're measured on results, it doesn't matter how we get there. I can be the biggest jerk on the planet, but my job's secure because I exceed results. I leave bodies in the wake. I have a high turnover because people hate working for me. Not me, but these leaders. But I get results, so it doesn't matter. Now, if you have a leader who doesn't get results and also doesn't do all of these things, that's problematic. Oftentimes we see people that are leaders who are incapable of having a good conversation. They're often not respected, but they get results. And they get it through berating people, bullying people into doing what they need to do. And sometimes they get lucky and they have people with high integrity that are just going to do the job because they're going to do the job. And so they get the results. When you have someone who does know how to have communications, they do treat people with respect and they get results, those people are excelling. But at the end of the day, all the organization care about, are we getting the results? And they can say they care how they get there. Right. Most of them do not.
So what an interesting dilemma then. If I'm in an organization where being able to exercise with crucial conversations as a framework and a model that's driving this respectful interaction between myself and a leader who gets it. And now I'm moved into an organization that doesn't quite function that way. Mm-hmm. And the first time I go in to have what might be considered, and crucial doesn't mean bad. It's just, it means something. It's important. I mean,
crucial, how they literally define it is when the stakes are high, there's high emotion, and it's important. Those are the elements that come together for a crucial conversation. So absolutely not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It just means there's high stakes, it's important to people, and there's a lot of emotion wrapped up in it.
So you come from an environment where you could have those conversations because your leader was that kind of leader. And you go into an organization whose leader is not. They might be Mr. Tss.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of that coin is being a leader who moves to an organization whose former leader was someone who could engage in those high stakes conversations with a lot of intelligence and respect. And the people learned that, and they come to this new leader who is nowhere near that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd stop myself in the middle of that because when we would do leadership transition meetings where there's a new leader coming in a number of cases, I was the leader that was moving on to another position, and I would lead a leadership transition conversation with the new incomer the incomer and the team. And I would ask this leader important questions about, let's just help these people get to know who you are without having to try to figure it out through hallway conversations. So what makes you tick? What ticks you off? When you ask somebody a question about something, is that an invitation for a white paper or is it really just a reflection? How do you make your decisions? All of that kind of stuff. But if you are a leader who is not used to having good conversations and you move into an organization that is used to it, oh my goodness, how would one help orient a leader? Can you imagine? Did you ever see that happen? You may have. I don't know.
God, yes.
Okay, so a leader who is incapable of this moves into an organization whose intelligence, their EQ, their PQ, their IQ, all of that is up there with respectful exchanges for the purposes of advancing, not for purposes of competition.
Mm-hmm. How?
I'm sitting there imagining that group of people thinking, oh my gosh, we've gone back to the dark ages.
Yeah.
What does that do to a team? Oh my goodness.
It drastically shifts the culture and the what's the word I'm looking for? The ability, not even ability, but like people don't want to stay on that team. They want
the trust is going to be
trust is gone. The culture is not there.
Safety has disappeared.
There is no safety anymore. Like it just drastically changes how people feel about working on the team. And then typically when people don't want to be on a team, the work declines, the communication declines. Even that intact team, when you just pluck a leader out and put a new leader in, that can even start to change the dynamics amongst the team members, because now that new leader who is more of a tyrant, if you will, who don't talk to me, just do what I say, that breeds a little competition that probably wasn't there amongst the team members. And so they're gonna operate differently too. So it drastically shifts the dynamics of a team.
And the reverse would then also be true. If a highly capable leader comes into an organization that has sunk to that level of distrust and disarray, and you never question anything, don't bring up bad news, all of that, the ability to undo that.
Yeah, I took over a team many years ago that was incredibly dysfunctional. And I did a couple quick all-team offsites. I was like, look, that's not how I operate. This is who I am. This is what we're going to do. I want your input. What are things that this team has done that we want to keep doing? What do we want to stop doing? What do we want to start doing? What do you need from me? I want to share what I need from you. And we're changing. And after even just the first half day, there was such a difference in how the team showed up. We did another full day. And then after that full day, it was funny because we went out and we played ping pong and we went to a bar and just had a grand time. The first day when I told them that's what we were going to do for our outing, the second day, everyone was pissed. Nobody wanted to go.
Really?
They did not want to do it. They don't like each other. They don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to hang out with these people. We had a blast. A blast. And I'm not going to say we didn't have issues on the team because we certainly did. But what started to happen was, instead of coming to me for every problem, I was always like, did you talk to that person? Go have a conversation with her or him before you come back to me. I'll help you resolve it if I need to. Go have a conversation. I don't want to. I don't like that person. I understand that. We don't need to like each other, but we're going to work together, and we're going to work together as a team, and we're going to respect each other. So go have a conversation. If it doesn't go well, I will happily help you. I will mediate a conversation if I need to. Just go try to have a conversation first. And almost every time, whomever it was having the issue would come back and say, I'm really glad you pushed me to have a conversation. We're good. Awesome. But it was incredible how quickly the team turned around. But the one thing that this team had that a lot of teams didn't, they loved the work that we were doing.
Mm.
Everyone loved the work that we were doing, and we were making a difference. We just didn't have any sort of, before I got there was no sort of set way of doing things. Everyone was just willy-nilly doing whatever they wanted. There was no real team meetings. There was no sharing of information. And people just generally didn't like each other. And again, I don't care if you like each other, but we need to operate as one, so that if for some reason you can't support this particular business unit and you're going to come over and support this one, there's some level of continuity for our customers. And it was amazing how quickly these people rallied. It was really cool.
And the notion that they didn't like each other, that they, just didn't even want to work with each other, turned around because they were given permission to engage, to be able to ask questions, ask for help.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun to see, and there was a lot of personality on that team. A lot of personality. But it was a dynamic group of people, and it was a lot of fun once we got rolling. But it was, like I said, when I took over, it was just a chaotic mess.
It seems that it takes a while to be able to train a team to be able to be in disarray, distrusting. Not that a leader of that ilk is, well, they might be focused on trying to do that. I don't know. Bullying their team into being, look, you do your job. You don't ask questions. You just knuckle down, and I don't want to see any problems.
I had a client that was like that.
Huh.
This guy was interesting. I don't want to share too much because I don't want to give away who he might be, but he coached a children's sports team, and talked about how you had to recruit for the weaknesses that you had on the team. You coached everyone up, all the right stuff. And so I said to him one day, why don't you do the same thing in your role as a leader at your job? Because I was brought in because he sucked as a leader big time. And he was like, no, that's not how you do it at work. Oh. Well, that's news to me. Tell me how you do it at work then, sir. I mean, this guy threatened his people. They were scared of him. He actually got into a physical fight at a regional meeting with somebody.
Oh, my. You
don't treat people like that at work unless you're in a boxing thing or something. I don't know. But he was a tyrant. And when I was first starting to work with him at our very first meeting, I'll never forget this. He sat at the table with his arms crossed. He wanted nothing to do with me. He wasn't going to do the homework. He wasn't going to read the material. He would show up for our meetings, but we had to keep them to a half an hour, and he could only do it once a month. And so I closed my book and I said, it's nice meeting you. I don't think we're going to work well together. I'll let your VP know that this isn't going to work out. And I started to walk out of the room. Boy, did he backpedal. Well, no. You don't need to leave. We can start. We'll make this work. No, I have no desire to work with you. And I don't think that we're a good fit. So I'll let your VP know about this conversation, and they can find someone else for you. No. Sit back down. We can continue. I don't think anybody ever stood up to him in the workplace before. He was a disaster to work with. I should have fired him sooner than I did. I did eventually walk away from that client, but it was interesting as I went and talked to his team. Story after story after story about what a disaster this guy was with clients. And I said, how is your like you guys survey your clients? And they said, he gets great reviews. And I looked at the questions they asked. did my project come in on time? Did it come in on budget? There was no, would you work with this person again? There was none of that kind of personal touch. So I asked them to start asking the question, would you work with this person again? 100% of the time, the answer was no on his surveys.
Whoa.
100% no. And this is a guy you have running your region. It was amazing to me. And the team, they were so, like, they loved the work that they did. They were dedicated to their clients. They were helping each other out all the time. The one reason why they kept this guy, his institutional knowledge. He was brilliant at the work that this company did. And I said, why don't you just make him a resource instead of putting him in front of clients? And certainly do not have him running this team. You are lucky these people have stayed as long as they have, because every single one of them shared with me in my first meeting with them that they're looking for new jobs. They don't want to be here. Wow. As much as it pays and as much as they love the work, and the work was specialized, so there's only a few companies that do it. This guy actually threatened to me, he said, I would like to kill some of these people and leave their bodies out back.
Oh.
And I thought, ooh, you need a fit for duty assessment. But legally, I can't say that. So, yeah, and I was meeting with this guy in a very remote location. And I thought, man, I hope you don't want to leave my body out back. But I called him out on it. We had a conversation about it. And it was one of those, well, I'm joking, sort of. No, you're not. So we're gonna have a conversation about this. He was, I could go on about this guy forever, but it was fascinating to me that he also coached these children and fully understood how to develop them. I didn't believe him, so I checked. I went to a game and I watched him coach. Turned out I knew a kid on the league. I knew his parents. And I talked to the parents, and they went on and on and on about what a great coach he was.
Whoa.
I was like, okay, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Exactly what was going through my mind.
And I could not convince him, no matter how many skills I used, could not convince him to see that if he attempted to treat his employees the way he treated those kids, that he would be far more successful in the workplace, he would be less stressed in the workplace, and he wouldn't want to leave their bodies out back. He wouldn't acquiesce a centimeter.
Wow.
They eventually let him go, but it took a long time.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And boy, this little conversation has gone an interesting route, right? Gone from being able to have crucial conversations to looking for bodies out back.
Talk about a crucial conversation.
So, okay, I think maybe we've made several points in this conversation, but it seems like a really good place to conclude, because that team is safe now.
Yes, they are safe.
and that person has been moved on to something, and we can pray for his work teams and be grateful that you at least had a chance to try and influence him.
Yeah, well, sometimes all the skills in the world don't land on people who aren't willing. So.
Well, there's a great closer.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is Carla Lewis.
I'm DocShellie. We'll see you next time. They're not the problem, right? If we're measured on results, it doesn't matter how we get there. I can be the biggest jerk on the planet, but my job's secure because I exceed results. I leave bodies in the way. I have a high turnover because people hate working for me. Not me, but these leaders. But I get results, so it doesn't matter.